Hey everyone, my name's Jay Reynolds and this is Sax 101. What Sax 101 is a series of lessons and exercises with backing tracks that'll help make you a better saxophone player. In the case of the B-flat lessons, when I go to play, I'll have a tenor saxophone so you'll hear the correct notes. Otherwise, when I'm not playing, you'll see me with an alto sax. So let's get started. First up, the parts of the horn. Depending upon whether you play alto or tenor or baritone or soprano saxophone, these parts might look a little different, but they all serve the same purpose. And here they are: the body, the neck, the mouthpiece, the ligature, the reed, the neck strap, and cork grease. All right, we're going to put the ligature on the mouthpiece first. I have a Rovner ligature here. Your ligature might be different. It might be made of brass. The screw or screws might be on the bottom instead of the top. But in any case, we are going to put the ligature on the mouthpiece first. We do that in order to protect the reed. If you put the reed on the mouthpiece first, it becomes possible to damage the reed with the ligature when you put it on. So always, ligature first. So as you can see, I've switched ligatures. This one probably looks more like the one that came with your sax if you're renting or just bought a new horn. Again, the ligature goes on before the reed, so slide it on and loosen the screws. The reed is going to go on with the flat side of the reed against the bottom of the mouthpiece. Slide it in with the thick end of the reed facing the back of the mouthpiece and the thin end facing the tip. There should be just a tiny sliver of mouthpiece showing above the reed, and there should be some of the bark showing between the ligature and the cut part of the reed. This shiny part here is the bark. You also want to have the reed centered so that it's not hanging over to one side of the mouthpiece. Once you have the reed and ligature positioned, retighten the screws. I try to tighten the screw nearest the tip of the mouthpiece first to keep the ligature from sliding off. Next, we are going to apply cork grease to the cork. The cork is on the neck, or if you're playing a soprano that doesn't have a neck, the cork is just on the body. Apply about a lip balm amount of cork grease to the cork and then gently work it in with your finger. By the way, the best time to put cork grease on the cork is when you put the horn away. That gives the cork grease a chance to sit overnight and seep further down into the cork's pores. Next, we're going to put the mouthpiece on the neck, and we're going to do that before the neck goes on the body. We do that to protect the saxophone. If you have a soprano that doesn't have a neck, just be careful about where you place your hands when you're putting the mouthpiece on. Down by the bell where there's no hardware and no keys is generally a good bet, and just make sure your cork is never dry. As far as how far in to push the mouthpiece, that's different for every player, and it's different for every neck because the amount of cork is never uniform. So for now, let's just push our mouthpiece about 2/3 of the way in. Before the neck goes on the body, the neck strap goes on the body. That makes it harder to accidentally drop the horn, especially if you have a neck strap like mine that has a clip on it. Next, undo the screw, and the neck should slide right in. If it doesn't slide right in, undo the screw some more. If it's still not sliding right in, I know this is a little gross, but wipe some saliva around this part of the neck, and it should go right in. The register key pin should line up with the neck bracing. Next, we're going to get our first sound out of the saxophone, but before we do that, let's learn the key to getting a good tone. I know what you're saying, Jay, I've been breathing my whole life without your help, and it's been going great. And I'm sure it has, but in order to learn to play the saxophone well, we're going to have to learn a new type of breathing called diaphragmatic breathing. It involves breathing from our abdomen. When we breathe in, our lungs expand down. That's because the muscle that moves our lungs, which is called our diaphragm, is attached to the bottom of our lungs. So when we breathe in, our lungs expand down and push everything in our abdominal cavity out of the way. This is what it looks like. Congratulations, you just learned diaphragmatic breathing, which sounds a lot cooler than sticking your gut out when you breathe in. The other thing we have to go over is airflow. When you breathe in and out when you're playing saxophone, you want to do it in one smooth, uninterrupted motion, kind of like you do when you're sighing. What you don't want to do is interrupt that airflow, especially not by closing off your throat. So when you breathe in and out, do it like you're sighing. All right, let's get a sound. To start with, we are going to get a sound with the neck and mouthpiece. So take your neck and mouthpiece off the horn, put the body of the horn somewhere where it'll be safe. If you're playing soprano with no neck, you're just going to play the whole instrument. Your mouthpiece goes against your top teeth, just shy of halfway, right around where the reed and mouthpiece meet. Your lower lip rolls over your bottom teeth. You're going to apply pressure to the reed with your lower lip. That's called your embouchure. Embouchure is a French word, and it describes the shape you make with your mouth when you play a woodwind or brass instrument. Once the mouthpiece is against your top teeth, exhale and slowly increase pressure with your lower lip until the note speaks. Let's see that again. All right, now that you know the correct embouchure, you know the right amount of pressure to put on the reed to get the note to speak, let's do another one, but this time, start with the correct embouchure. Start with the right amount of pressure on the reed as soon as you breathe out. Let's take a closer look at that one as well. So let's play our first note. If you haven't done so already, put the mouthpiece and neck back on the body, put your neck strap back on the body, and let's start with the right hand. Your right thumb goes into this thumb rest. Then your next three fingers, index, middle, and ring, go on these three inlays, and your pinky goes on this first spatula key. So let's do our left hand now. Our left thumb goes on this thumb rest. Our left pinky goes on this first spatula key. Ring finger goes on the next inlay. Middle finger goes on the next inlay after that. We skip this little inlay here, and our index finger goes on the next full-size inlay. The first note we're going to learn is B. The fingering for B is just your left index finger down. Here it is on a fingering chart. If you want to learn more about reading fingering charts, check out the fingering chart video in the reference section of this YouTube channel. Here's what that B looks like as musical notation. We'll learn more about reading musical notation in Lesson 2. Okay, before we play our first note, I want to go back over airflow because this is exactly where it comes into play. When we're learning the saxophone, we've got all this new stuff we have to do. Our hands go in a certain spot, and the mouthpiece goes in a certain spot, and we have to make a certain embouchure. So when we get ready to play, we decide to do the thing we already know how to do first, which means we breathe in. And we hold our breath while we get the rest of it together. And we cough out our first note, which means we've broken the airflow, which means we're going to get a bad sound. So instead, do all the new stuff first. Put your hands where they're supposed to go. Land the mouthpiece against your top teeth. Roll your lower lip over your bottom teeth, then breathe in. You'll know you're doing it right when you're breathing in through the sides of your mouth around the mouthpiece. So let's go back over all of it one more time. Right hand. Left hand. Mouthpiece goes against your top teeth, just shy of halfway in. Your lower lip rolls over your bottom teeth. Breathe in through the sides of your mouth. Set your embouchure and exhale. Congratulations, you just played your first note. You may have noticed that I played my note for a long time. I wasn't necessarily trying to show off. That's an exercise called playing a long tone, and I want you to play long tones every single day. What you do is you play one note until you're completely out of air, but while you're playing that note, you try to hold it as steady as possible. Then you repeat the whole process. I want you to do that for 5 minutes every single day. If you do 5 minutes of long tones every single day, your embouchure will get stronger, and as your embouchure gets stronger, it'll become easier to play with consistent pitch and tone. So that does it for Lesson 1. If you want to dive deeper into anything we covered today, or if you want to dive deeper into the saxophone in general, I'm available for Skype lessons. So check out the next lesson where we will learn more than one note. We'll also learn a little bit about reading music so that we can play the exercises that'll help incorporate those new notes into our saxophone playing. Be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.